Good evening, Shuffle Bus riders. What is going on? It's your boy Jesse back here with another episode of the Shuffle Bus. With me, as always, is my good friend and co-host Neil. Neil, how are you doing tonight, man?
Good,
Good.
good.
Wednesday night. Feels like we
Yeah,
were just here.
we were.
I know. I know. Yeah, it was. We had an event on Saturday. I was a sealed qualifier, first time running a sealed event for Solforge Fusion, and I think it went off pretty well, man. I think the takeaway was
I
that
I think it was real smooth. I mean, it was a low player event, so there weren't a lot of instances that like could cause a problem. Everybody that was in the tournament was an experienced player, and uh, so we didn't have any hiccups. But
yep.
obviously, we got the sealed pools out to everybody timely, and it seemed to go pretty good.
Yeah, Madungo comes out on top of that event. A winner, I believe he went undefeated. Yeah, with his pool, he was 3-0 because we only had 8 players, so it was a 3 round Swiss
Yes,
tournament. Went 3-0 with his pool. Core, who's been on a tear, finishes second here. So um, obviously, still solidifying his skill in this game and his position in this game. And then
I thought his deck was the coolest
yeah, we're gonna
of
we're
of
gonna
the
talk
decks,
about
but
that tonight. We're gonna break down Mundungo's and Core's deck, and if we have time, we'll get into Gajus's and Anque's as well. But there's relatively outside of that, we've got a little bit of happening in about an hour. Anque is going to be joining us on stream for just a little bit. He's going to be talking about his new Kickstarter launching here in just a few weeks for the life counter system for Solforge Fusion to play in person. I don't know if you've seen this thing yet or not, Neil. Maybe you have.
I played with it actually at Indy.
Yeah.
Eric Justice Blinded had one that
Okay.
he played with all weekend. It's pretty slick.
Yeah, yeah. So he is launching that to the public, and he's got some extra incentives for backers of the Kickstarter in the form of some alt art minions that he has created, and we get the opportunity. One set of them has been the art has been spoiled, but the full card frame and all of that stuff is not, and that's going to go be spoiled here tonight on our show in about an hour. So he'll be joining us to talk about the Kickstarter, talk about these alt arts, and then yeah, we'll probably wrap up the show after we finish up with On. So um, yeah, so I mean, we've got kind of an hour to talk about these decks. Any other news that we need to break down? Obviously, we're not as organized as those charge plated guys. Those guys got it figured out. They are the epitome of professionals. But I think there's not been a whole lot of Soulforge news lately. Neil, have you heard anything or seen anything that maybe I missed this week? I feel like
No,
it's been
I
pretty quiet on the
both
Western Front.
both grandfather and Joel Tater Tot have been firing some small tournaments to try to give people opportunities with silver decks in the last few weeks. So if you're looking for something to do that, just follow the multiple discords. Both of them have been putting up a lot of tournaments. I think Church also has done one or two. So anybody that's prepping for Gen Con can keep a lookout for those guys.
Sure.
But other than that, I think it's kind of business as usual.
Yeah, I think more than most got has started a new series of events as well. Um, kind of nightly. I think they're I'm not exactly sure if they're league based or they're just a single night event kind of thing. Small things called the Forge Guardians Call to Action. It is available on the Stoneblade Discord, so you should check that out if you want to play Soulforge online. Uh, More than most is Elijah is just absolutely an awesome dude, and excited to see
Mhm.
him get started in something. And then ML Vanby has worked his way into Looney, what he calls the Looney League. And I don't know much about this, but there's information available. He posted it, started yesterday as well. It says it's a 3 round tournament, is open to everyone, but has physical prizes from OP kits for Canadians, since there's so few Canadians offering. So if you're you're Canadian and wanting to play Solforge but having maybe some difficulty finding a local, Looney League here may be a great opportunity for you. So you should check that out as well. Um, that is also available on the Stoneblade Discord. See a theme here? If you get on the Stoneblade Discord, you can kind of stay plugged into whatever parts of it you are interested in staying plugged into. So I think it's pretty cool. For me personally, Neil, I am so busy right now with work life stuff. I really haven't even had time to play Soulforge recently. I can't even remember.
I haven't played very much. I haven't played very much recently either.
I can't remember the last time I played a game. It was our league. It was our league. It was for sure.
Yeah.
But
well, we also haven't been playing on stream lately because we've had other stuff going on.
Yeah, I know. You and I have not played a game of Soulforge against each other in quite some time, for sure. So we're gonna have to change that. Maybe it won't make live stream, but maybe it can just make some side content with it, for our YouTube channel. So yeah, I mean, I love that our content, like our live pods like this, where we've got folks like Justin, who's a grandfather who also has an amazing content channel you should check out. Young Gaming, I believe. Young Inspired Gaming. I'm going to get this wrong, Justin. Post a link in the chat. That way everybody knows it. But long story short, I love that we have enough to cover that we don't have to fill, quote unquote, fill with games. I think that's great.
Yeah, we've just had some exciting stuff going on. Obviously, last week we had Church and Cody, and we've had some league stuff going on. It's been good. We're gonna have another one soon.
Yep. Yeah, we'll have announcements on our next league, which will be the one game a week format coming up shortly, as well as I'm going to try to get some stuff scheduled. Obviously, Gen Con throws a little bit of a monkey wrench in it because we probably won't finish before Gen Con happens, so we may do the old pause for Gen Con break in the middle of this tournament, just to make it easier for everybody to go enjoy Gen Con, not worry about having to play an online game that week, and then come back the week after and finish up that round and then proceed from there. So I'll lay that all out for everybody in this next tournament, as far as our desired timelines and when the round ends and all of that stuff, so everybody knows. But will be another gold event, bronze event. Jeez. I got Gen Con on my mind, which is the gold event, Worlds. So I'm excited for Worlds. I do hope that the tournament continues to garner some attention and that folks are able to take advantage of that. We've got Ultimate Seal Championship this weekend. Currently, there are 9 players
at Origins.
At Origins, yeah, there are 9 players signed up for that. That's pretty exciting. We've got also a storyline event coming out of Origins as well, which is a silver event. It's kind of interesting. Storylines are silver events.
Why do you think that?
I don't know. I mean, what advantage does a storyline event have being a silver event versus just being just a bronze or whatever? Like, does it really add anything to the event to be silver?
It adds a small amount of draw for the more competitive players, right? It doesn't actually change the requirement for entry, right? You can still just play any deck in it, but it just gives a higher renown payout. And like we were talking about last week with the Chargebite guys, the renown system's getting changed apparently soon anyway. So not dramatically changed, but a little bit. So maybe that's part of the planning for that as well.
Sure. Yeah, it's very possible. Not seeing anything outside of League of Champions yet on the Stoneblade site for the Gen Con Worlds event. So,
well, that they mentioned that last week too, because George and Cody have been talking to DSB guys about it, that because they're planning on having the website breakers calculation fixed by then,
right?
They shut down they took the event off the site so that they could make sure that they start it with the correct version of the website. So probably because I couldn't find maybe it's up today, I haven't checked today, but I couldn't find the actual World Championships roster on Sunday
Yeah.
when I was looking for who was signed up. So maybe it's up now. I can take a quick look, but I know that they're trying to get the whole system fixed before they have their biggest tournament of the year.
Right, right. The Manly one here, I think that's Billy Bad Aim. Correct me if I'm wrong, Manly. I try to remember. And then
yeah, that's Billy.
Yeah, and then Ryan Casey Kidd here for the chat as well. So welcome to chat, fellows. Appreciate you guys being here. So Neil, let's break these decks down. Let's talk about these sealed decks. Do you want to break them down from what they played, or do you want to look at their whole pool and maybe try to deduce why?
I think we should take a quick look at the whole pool.
Okay.
I mean, I assume that everyone in this event did a good job of picking the correct pairs because they all like seem to be experienced players. It was my first time interacting with Christy, though I know that they play a lot. But I think we should take a quick look at the pool and see what decisions were made.
No, that's cool. Let's do that here. I'm just getting the scene working here. Billy Bad Aim says his decks were fun. It's too bad he couldn't play. Yeah, I think he got a pretty good pool, Billy. That stuff's all going to be shipping out this week. I was hoping to get it out today, and it just didn't work out. So let's see. We're gonna go to Madungo to start here, and I don't have these in any particular order, so I'm just going to open the 4 decks, and then we'll review them in whatever order you want to choose to review them. Well,
I know you were there, Billy. Billy's like, I was on the list because I gave him a little bit of a hard time about not signing up when he was subbing in for you a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah. So which one do you want to start with? Do you want to start with the decks he didn't play?
I'm still getting them open up. You're getting ahead of me here.
Okay.
I can't even find them now.
Carbonate says, I actively chose a worse pairing because I didn't want to play green purple. Laugh out loud. Newt, am I going to have to start calling you baby potato? Is that what's going to have to happen here? You're like baby potato now? You're like Joel and can only play non-green purple? I think you got to, it depends on what your goals are in any given event, right? Like if your goal in a given event is to come in and just have fun, then yeah, I mean, there was really no stakes on the line because everybody who participated, if you didn't have an invite, was going to get an invite because it was an 8-player tournament. So at the end of the day, like, yeah, you could have fun with this event if you wanted to. There was really zero pressure to like excel or exceed or try to be a top 8 player just to get that elusive invite, because it just worked out that way. But obviously I would say it just depends on your goals, right? If you're already qualified, that's the perfect opportunity to come play Shuffle Bus and just have fun and experiment. If you're not qualified, maybe it's time to bring a green deck and go from there. Newt says, I play green purple sometimes. I just like red purple better. Neil and I had this conversation. What was this? About 3 months ago, Neil? Now, like off air, where we were talking about maybe green or red purple might be in general the better pairing.
That was like my initial take, was that was the best pairing. Only I had not, that was like very early on in the in our coverage of this game, because at that time, like, I had essentially only been playing with you and Shadow, and I had been doing some research on like what the current meta was like, and at that time, like half of the silver decks were red, and 25% of them were red purple.
Right.
And so like that led me to believe that was probably the best place to be. And I still think it's very good. We had Steven, top 4 of Indy, playing red purple.
Right.
And I know we just talked about this on Saturday, but I'm pretty sure red purple was the top deck at UK.
Yeah, it was. I think we talked about that last week, right? Last Wednesday with the charge plated guys. So if you missed that episode,
right,
go back and check that out. because we did break down and talk about the meta a little bit with Charge Play Guys until we ran out of room or time to continue it. So we'll definitely
So
come back to
I
that
still think, I mean, Greg kind of like, or Ryan kind of fought me on this on Saturday or whatever when I was saying that I think purple's the best color. That maybe green is better, but I still think purple has the highest ceiling for sure. So I don't know, like green or red or even blue or whatever is good with it, but I think red purple is a fine place to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen it do lots of great things, right? I mean, and it has had consistency in tournaments, so I think it makes sense. But we did watch Madungo here play kind of completely off that and play green red, right? Like,
Right. Yeah. And I didn't have the pools memorized. I remember his deck very well because we showed it on stream a lot, and he remained at the top tables for quite a bit. So looking at his deck, and we kind of talked about this if you go back and watch the coverage from Saturday, like he played green red, and this was a deck that like Ferocious Roar was actually good in, which I think is crazy because I don't think that card is very good in general.
sure.
But he just went really wide. He had Nova's Dominion at cycle 2. He had Lycian Rain. He had a Druid. And then he had a Summoning Warstoker. Just a bunch of random men.
Yeah.
And he just went wide. And in one of the games we saw him just play like a bunch of Savage Ice Storms, and there's just no way to win.
Right.
Because Ice Storm, I think, is really good and constructed, let alone in sealed.
Right.
But the other games we watched, he just like played more dudes than his opponent and like played a Lycian Rain or played a Ferocious Roar or whatever. And just kind of got a lot of value out of it.
What I took away most from watching, to your point, was when you play against an Ice Storm, it sort of dictates the way you play the game a little bit, right? Like you play in lanes 1, 3, and 5, you generally avoid 2 and 4. Just that way you minimize the impact of Ice Storm on your board. But the issue you have there is if your opponent's just making a bunch of meaningful, powerful minions on lanes 2, 4, like you can't avoid that, and then Ice Storm is turned on, right? So that was what I thought I took away most from watching his deck play throughout the day, was just the ability to pressure. If you go back and you look, a lot of his decisions were putting minions and or relevant threats in lanes 2 and 4, while kind of minimizing the value of threats in 1, 3, and 5. So it was kind of interesting to watch it play out that way, and I don't know if he did it on purpose, but the success of the deck was mostly summoners and red cards killing off random 5/1s. Yeah, Madungu in chat with us tonight.
Yeah, he played the Pyromantic Mystic for like a nice 2-for-1 several times.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. He said, I think most of the sealed games that I've won in the past are just on the back of 5/1s that turned into 2-for-1s. So, yeah, I mean, I think the deck was really well positioned to do that. And, just looking at his pool, blue aside, I don't think there was much in the blue side that I really looked at and went, man, that would have been hard to pass up, right? Like, Alamancer kind of is okay, but you only have 2 mages, and, you don't have a ton of other mages in your other sides either, right? You've got
there were 2 mages in the red deck and 2 mages in the blue deck.
Right. So the Alamancer's not very incentivized there.
Mediocre.
Right. And then so really when you look at the blue deck really didn't bring much to the table that would probably get you excited. You have to either play into some heavy scientist type stuff, and there's only 1 scientist in the blue deck to get any value off tech upgrade. So yeah, I just think I could definitely see, he does have the Betrayer Camouflage Gilder, but or glider, but we talked about how bad glider is in general. So, um,
No, glider I think is good. It's the other thing that's bad. That has like the same art. What is it called? Razor Tooth.
oh, Razor Tooth. Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm getting this.
Which he actually played a Razor Tooth in his sealed, but
yeah.
the rest of his deck was good.
So
and it was like a fine Razor Tooth.
Obviously, like Stabilizing Technohulk would have been pretty good in general in decks that are wanting to buff up, but like I just don't think there's much that this blue deck was really bringing that shows any sort of real opportunity.
This deck is like it's like the same as the red deck but worse.
Right.
Like it has like 2 bad removal spells, which is not as good as the 3 red removal spells, and it has some guys.
Sure.
The Rosetta is like fine.
Mm-hmm.
I like the repurposability, but it's only good if you have something like cool to do with it. And so he has like the stabilizer, he has the Allomancer, but again, like you said, the Allomancer is very meh.
Yeah.
But I don't know. This pile didn't attract me very much at all.
No, I think it'd be if you got 15 minutes to decide, you could take a look at this blue deck and in relatively quick decision say this is probably not my strongest of the 4, right? And if it is the strongest of your 4, you probably got some real problems in your pairings. Obviously, for Madungu's purposes, that wasn't the case. But let's talk about the purple deck because I think there could be a real draw to play this purple deck. I mean, Arrogant Skeleton.
The guys all suck.
Yeah, I mean, kinda. I mean, Forsaken Spectre is not terrible. And we've seen Predator do work before. I mean, there's a bunch of stealth in this.
Like, Grimcon is fine, but it's only good if you have a bunch of rule spells.
I mean, Tormenting Geist is
kind of like your opponent has to have none.
Tormenting Geist is okay. Not a lot of big butts in this purple deck.
Right, just like they're all X3s. And then at level 2, they're all like X5s. That they're not. The guys are all small and bad.
Yeah.
Like Tormenting Geist is like a fine card, but it's not like a great card. It's not like a reason that you would play purple.
Right.
So it being like your best guy is.
I mean, I think there's a couple of decent cards here, and in a sealed pool, this is probably a good mid-tier style purple deck here.
And Zrathswill is very bad in this deck. Like,
well,
Zrathswill is a good card. Soul Reap is literally the only trigger.
You don't gain any life anywhere else?
No, and neither in his green.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Soul Reap is really bad. This purple is really, really bad, and it's worse because the Zrathswill is turned off by the green half. I don't think this is good at all. I think Vendagu made the right choice. Like, if I was forced to play this purple or this blue, I would not be happy.
Sure. But obviously, like we saw the other stuff that's going on with his green deck, and then ultimately.
Well, he has a Leyline Vermin, so that card's busted.
Yeah, Leyline Vermin is very, very good.
And then, like, all his other dudes are, like, good dudes, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, obviously, like, Shardplate Delver can be very powerful in certain scenarios.
Like, his worst cards are, like, Mantis and Talasan.
You know, one of my favorite cards when you have a ton of minion generation.
And both those cards are very playable.
Yeah, for sure. I think Shroudthorn Splicer might be slept on as one of the better green cards out there right now. It's not great at level 1. In fact, I'd say it's downright terrible at level 1. But its 2 and 3 versions are pretty insane.
Well, yeah, obviously the bigger ones are crazy, but even the level 1 is like good sometimes.
Well, yeah, because I mean, there are many times where you can replace a Wisp with an Oakfather minion, right? And doing that in turn the cycle 1 of the game,
right? You like
is very, very strong.
You like 2 for 1 yourself, right? To do this ability, if you do it like in cycle 1 normally, so you have to have a way to make up the card loss somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But this deck has a lot of those, right? We talked about already how he has
The Druid, Lycian Rain,
and
yep.
the Summoner and the Lycian Rain and all that.
And then just built-in Forgeborn ability from Nova making 2 wisps as well. You can access that through the Mantis, etc. So
Menundu says he thinks Mantis is his best card.
I think Mantis is really good here. It's a Stampede.
I mean,
Mantis.
he played the Nova. I guess it's fine. It's just like another copy of. It's good at level 2 as well, I guess, because he has.
Second Nova ability is pretty good there too.
Nova's Touch.
Yeah,
it's probably fine.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, I think this green half. It's really easy to lock in on this green half and say this is what I want to play.
Yeah,
I'm not going to pair with it.
I don't think that the blue or purple come close to either of these,
right?
As a decision, and obviously, like, it was the correct decision for him since he went 3-0 with it,
right?
So I don't know if
Adunga says it's 3 creatures are a Necrotol. Ike O, welcome to the chat. Ike says death proc purple things. Not sure what that's in reference to, Ike, but feel free to elaborate in chat. Yeah, I mean, I think all in all, do you think there was ever a moment, and Madunga's in chat, so you can answer this too, where you debate playing the Sunder over the Nova here?
What is it? I don't know what his Sunder does. It's 2 spell sprites and then play a spell for free.
Yeah.
Play a spell for free in this deck is probably worse than play a
5 spells in the deck.
What is this card called? The Nova's Touch. What is it analogous with?
I don't know.
Lycian
Rain, right? Or no. Botanimate.
Yeah, so playing a spell from your hand for free is probably always worse than playing a Botanimate for free in this deck.
Yeah.
So even though the spell sprites are slightly higher value than the 2 wisps, the high differential in Stimbolt versus Nova's Touch, I think, makes a difference. And then Nova's Might is much better than Ice Armor in Cycle 4.
Agreed with that. If you're going to go Cycle 4, you want Nova's Might over Ice Armor for sure. So, yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, this is a pretty solid sealed pool.
Yeah, I mean, it was... I mean, I guess it's potentially not the actual best one. Like, maybe there is some luck or pairings involved or whatever, but by all data that we have, it was the best one, right? That's just...
Yeah. Ike adding in that he was referring to the Splicers death procking, setting up Hydras or Shambler procs. Yeah. I mean, I think that's true, but...
I don't think that actually happens, actually. Hang on. Yeah, you replace it so you don't... never mind. It destroys itself.
It destroys...
Okay,
level 1 Splicer destroys itself, so...
Yep.
It does give a small amount of advantage to purple players.
Possible small synergy with something like a Spite Hydra or whatever.
Yeah. So
I mean, I like that card. I think it's pretty good. It's not like a card that I'm never personally going to go find a Splicer deck. Like, it's not like a card that I want to just like I have to trade for a deck with a Splicer in it. But it's like the kind of card that I want to be taking up the slots that I don't care about.
Sure. I agree with that. Splicer, to me, Madungo, like, I don't know. My Oros deck that I played on the recent Shuffle Bus, the Dark Forge Drain Oros combo deck that I have, has a Splicer in it. And I didn't play him much early in the tournament because I felt like he wasn't all that great. But by the later parts of the tournament, like, I got into a single game where I was kind of forced to play him. And then I was just absolutely blown away by his level 2 and level 3 abilities. And I was like, I pretty much almost windmill slammed Splicer every game after that. Because of how good he was in the 2nd and 3rd levels. It's not good if you're like playing Splicer in Cycle 2, of course. But like, if you can play Splicer in Cycle 1 and be on time with it, I think it's
and this green half specifically is quite good with Splicer, right?
Yeah.
Like, we talked about how he has a million ways to like make a wisp, so it's always a big upgrade at every level.
Yeah.
Like, it's like bad if you draw it exactly turn 1 cycle 1.
Ike is now throwing splicer decks into the ocean for dramatic effect. I need to see video of this, Ike, or I don't believe it. I'm just telling you now. It's got to be video proof or
This
nothing.
this game is this game in general is weird. The way that you have to evaluate cards. So like again, if you don't care about like how much your deck is winning or whatever, and you like playing Splicer, more power to you. Like everybody should do what they want to do. And if you have fun playing Splicer, do it, and you can go trade for all the Splicer decks. To me, if we're talking about evaluating decks for being competitive for winning tournaments, Splicer is not a card that enters the argument for why you would pick a half.
Sure.
But it enters the argument for why you wouldn't why you would pick one half that's similar to another. Like,
well,
so once you check off your two or three things you're looking for in the deck, then you look at the rest of the deck and you say, okay, well, which of these is the worst? And Splicer is a card that I would be happy to have as opposed to a Talisan or whatever.
Sure.
That is just okay or sometimes bad.
Yeah. I think that's my biggest takeaways as well. Like we talk about this a lot. Like in constructed play, you analyze what are my top 2 or 3 cards in a given deck that I can build around. And if Splicer is your 4th or 5th card in a list, you're not going to be upset about it. Ryan's agreeing here. Says Splicer is always cool. So hard to find a Utera creature that you don't say, oh, that's nice to have.
I feel similarly about a bunch of these cards actually. Like I think that Bartok is a card that is in that realm of like it would be hard for me to think like, oh, my deck needs a Bartok, but you're like, oh, my deck has a Bartok,
Yep.
Same with it's not Shardplate Delver. What's the other replace guy in green?
Pterodon Mauler?
No, there's one that's like if it replaces a guy, it pumps itself. Then if it replaces a guy, it pumps it and its adjacencies. And then if it replaces a guy, it pumps itself all guys.
Experience Steel Plate.
Yeah. Yep. So that's another one in that same realm where like I'm always happy to have that card as like just one of my randos.
Right. All right, let's break down the second place deck here. Greg's list. Let's talk a little bit about his pool. Greg played. Correct me if I'm wrong. What did Greg play?
He played blue red.
Right. Thank you. So let's take a look.
I thought this was the coolest deck. It was not a good matchup like against Vendangu, but I think Vendangu had the advantage in that matchup, and that's how it turned out in the finals, obviously.
So he had a purple Nyx that came up with play a zombie minion, give you minions +2. Of course, the Splicer was pretty critical in the latest pop-up grandfather tournament for me. Dr. Frankenbaum, Forsaken Stitcher, Hematophagic Geist, which
he's got three good spells in purple.
Yeah, the Dreadbolt, Group Meal, and Vyrix Embrace.
The Nyx is pretty bad as Nyxes go.
Yes,
it's fine.
Stitcher
it has a Stitcher.
Is okay. I mean,
well, does he have? I guess he has Stitcher on demand in cycle 2 off Raising Dead. But
yeah.
only group meal and like Frankenbaum. Frankenbaum is such a bad, like unreliable minion maker.
Yep.
It's a good card. It's just like I have a hard time calling that a minion maker.
Right.
So group meal and Nyx are like the only ways to stitch.
Yeah, Scourging Hydra that lets you destroy creatures. So I mean, you kind of get a little play.
Scourge Hydra is a good card. Raging Walker is a good card. I guess Raging is kind of like a bad adjective for him, but Walker's a good card in general.
He's got a big Meba in the Venerable Meba. Turns into a 10-12.
Yeah, and then into a 9-12.
Yeah.
Meba is one of my favorite cards. He's a funny guy.
Yep. So the Rainseeker here, the Rainseeker's purple half doesn't look like it's doing anything too exciting Although
Yeah,
Dreadbolt
this
and Vyrix Embrace are nice cards to consider. Um, and would
this
probably be
deck
the
is
cards you're looking at primarily as a consideration.
this deck is, I think, pretty meh.
Yeah.
Because like your guys are all pretty small, except for Amoeba,
Mm-hmm.
and the Nyx is not very good. So it's pretty easy to put that one to bed, I think.
So then we go um, over to the green side. He's got a double armor, double shifting with a Transcendent Biologist, which I love. Transcendent Biologist might be one of my favorite green cards, but does have a Forge Seal. I mean, that's kind of a nice added value here. Um, if you wanted to gain access to your Forgeborn's ability, Nova itself doesn't look super great in this one with Nova's Might, Nova's Touch, and Nova's Wrath. But obviously, like Armored Druid, probably okay. Doesn't I mean Armored on the Druid probably doesn't matter that much. Armored on the Raptor also doesn't probably matter that much just because of the life points of that creature. But again, does have the Steel Plate we were talking about, and then does have the Hibernated.
This is a weird pile.
It is a little different.
Again, it has Biologist and then like only Druid.
Mm-hmm. And then it's got a Shifting Matriarch here. But obviously, that's a tough place to be.
This pile is really unexciting.
Yeah. I mean, Biologist being the most exciting thing. Dendrify is pretty good to turn your Wisps into Oak Fathers if you want to. But without being able to play it for free, that's a tough sell. And then obviously, like I said, probably the only two cards that are really even getting your attention are
Ryan says Soul Rip is aptly named as it takes the soul of its owner upon seeing it. Talking about the cycle 3 ability on Nyx.
Yeah.
This. So I was hoping that some of these would be interesting, but the two pools we've looked at, like, and I know that the red and blue are better than these piles because I saw the deck.
Right.
So I suppose like it would be possible that this would be a tough decision if all 4 of your decks were like very unappealing.
Right.
But
because I would say that these two decks, they're playables. They're not necessarily great, but they're playables, right?
Ryan's all excited about this shifting Basher.
The Basher stats, yeah.
The old 3/7, 13/8, 18/5.
Yeah.
Is there any card that's good with shifting? I'm just curious. I don't actually know what shifting is. I know it like gives the level 1 power, and then the level 2 is like the same, and then the level 3 is the level 1 is like minus power plus butt, and then the middle one is kind of the same, and the big one is plus power minus butt. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a strange card. The Basher in this deck probably looks a little bit like a burn spell, right? But with
it does have breakthrough.
Yeah.
So like having the 18/5, like assuming your opponent has no removal spells because everything in the game kills this.
Right.
Well, it like
not
domes them a little bit.
Suppressing doesn't kill it. Sonic Burst doesn't kill it. I'm just saying. If you're gonna play around those suppressing Sonic Burst decks, here you go. Shifting Basher's your answer.
Yeah. Luckily, they have any number of level 1 creatures to put in front of it.
Yeah.
I guess it still does damage to a breakthrough, so it'd have to be like.
That's why I said it's almost like a burn spell. To a certain degree, right? You're probably only going to get 1 combat activation out of it, and you're probably only going to get whatever the breakthrough values you can get off of it before it dies. But
both the green half and the purple half in this pile seem really bad to me. So
the deck he put together was the purple red we talked about. Had a total of 6 spells in it, and then the rest were all creatures. Having a Bolstering Inventor, Charge Plated Sculptor, Metamind Overseer, which I don't think we saw him play that. Protective Operator, Stabilizing Warden, Stout Tactician, and then War Machine, which we saw his War Machine do a fair amount of work. I really like War Machine, even if you don't replace, just because it could clog up a lane for your opponent and sort of.
That card's okay.
Yeah, I like it.
I'm sure he played Overseer sometime because that card's good.
Yeah, I think Overseer is a great card. It's just we never saw it get played, but 2/5 that makes a Gizmo minion is playing pretty well on the stat side. It's pretty close to perfect stats. It's like one point below.
This half is really good, actually.
Mhm.
Like I hadn't really looked at it, I don't think, other than like watching him play, but this half looks really good to me.
He's got 3 scientists.
He's got 3 scientists,
4 scientists.
and the science four?
Or
One,
yeah, tactician,
two.
the
Oh yeah.
operator.
So he's got 4 scientists and the scientist synergy guy.
Right.
So that's good.
And the tech upgrade that cares about scientists. So
double scientist synergy with 4 scientists. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good half for sure.
So he's got like Warmonger mod's a great card.
Mm-hmm.
The other spells are kind of mediocre, but obviously the tech upgrade is better when you have 4 scientists.
Right.
He's got multiple ways to make a gizmo to go along with his sculptor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. I don't know. This half looks like and the War Machine obviously is much better in a deck that makes a bunch of gizmos.
Yeah.
And even the Warden is better in a deck that makes a bunch of gizmos.
Yeah, I agree.
This deck just has like a lot of synergy cards.
Yep. Yeah, so, I think you don't get much better, as Madunga put it, in terms of pushing out synergy for tech upgrade. But even the red side here, having the Thunder Sword, Thunder Stomper combo, if you will, pretty nice synergy built into the red side here with those two put in that way. And we saw him also get a ton of value out of Pyromantic, right?
Yeah, Pyromantic Warhound specifically was really good in his deck because he had a million gizmos he could throw away or replace. And he had the Thunder Sword also. That's really good to Warhound.
Right.
And just like we talked about in Madungu's deck, having the random pingers like the Pyromantic creatures is always good.
Yep. Yeah, so double Pyromantic here also extremely strong.
Heartseeker is a good card, though I don't think we ever saw him play it in the games we covered.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Did we see him ever play the Mecha Mage either? I'm not sure we did.
Mech Mage is a fine card. He's got 6 spells.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mech Mage is a fine card. Pyre Song is kind of a crappy spell, but it's okay.
I really like Pyre Song after cycle 1. Like there's just, especially in Steel, there's just a lot of leftover sort of cleanup damage where creatures have been, hit for a little bit and they're still alive. But
yeah, it's not a bad one. I'm just not excited about any of these spells. Like
I really like Stone Skin.
They're all playable. Really?
Yeah, I like Stone Skin. Why don't you like Stone Skin?
It's okay.
I think Stone Skin's really good with Thunder Sword.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Ryan,
I mean, lots of cards are good with Thunder Sword, right? Like,
sure.
Thunder Sword makes a lot of cards that normally are like kind of awkward really good.
Yeah.
I
do think Stone Skin is mislabeled. It sounds like a defensive spell, not an offensive spell. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird name, but I wish that at level 3 it like gave a little less power and made him strike instead of battle.
Yeah.
That's like my problem with it is that it's not really a removal spell. It's like a trade before combat, and obviously like you always get the better end of it. But you're either swinging way down, maybe not way down, but you're swinging down so that your guy survives and then it gets picked off easily by anything, or you're just like 2-for-1ing yourself trading up.
Right.
Which is okay too sometimes, like, but and Fit of Rage is a fine card also. Like they're just like red has so many great spells that if this was my spell suite in red, I'd be like not very happy with it. But because the rest of his deck is so good, I think it's just fine.
Yeah,
and because his purple and greens are so bad, like you can't not pick this.
yeah, I know. I agree. It's I think he really these decks sort of wrote their themselves for Greg here. I mean, it's possible that he had some deeper consideration on the purple side, but just because I do think Stitcher is very good, and you could have gotten some value out of that Stitcher for sure. But access to minions was a little tight in this. Obviously, you have more minion access in the blue side.
Right, having the blue half definitely turns that Stitcher on.
Yep.
Like you would never have a problem stitching in that blue half. What would that have made his Rosetta do if he chose purple? What's the level 1 on the Rosetta?
It's Inspire.
I'm sorry, on the Nyx.
It's
on the Nyx.
On the Nyx is Raising Dead.
Is that the?
You may play a mindless. You may play a mindless zombie minion, give you minions +2 attack.
Yeah, so that would be like okay. I think as is with the, with his Sunder having Gathering Storm at cycle 2, and then 2 crappy abilities at 3 and 4, having the Rosetta with the copy in cycle 2 is pretty good actually.
Yeah,
we saw him on stream get 2 lightning bolts out of it in 1 turn, which is really like the best you can hope for, I assume, in sealed.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, I think like I think both of these decks, are exactly what you would expect a representation of good decks in sealed to look like. They're not great, outstanding, crazy decks. They're not like lottery winning decks, but they're very strong and consistent.
Well, as we saw in our event, a good example of, I think, the decks that are very sought after for constructed are not the same thing as sealed,
right?
Because Ben opened the triple shambler, which in constructed is incredible,
right?
But and Ben did well in the tournament. I don't want to say that it was bad for sealed, but without having the ability to choose a half to have the life gain payoff with the triple shambler, it was just like okay,
right?
And it wasn't insane, and the rest of his pools like were not bonkers. So it's kind of a good illustration of how the decks are different in sealed and constructed. Because I think that blue half that Greg had is probably good enough that like it'll win at random locals all the time.
Oh, you think it's good enough in a constructed pairing just because of the scientist synergy?
Not like at like a Friday Night Magic type level.
Sure.
Like not at like a you should travel to a tournament type level, but like if you played that every week at your local tournament at whatever random store you live close to, I'm sure you would do good. Because it just had like a bunch of good synergies in it.
I agree with that.
Nothing bonkers, but the constructed is such a weird animal.
It is.
Like you really, I mean, you could live somewhere like if you live in Minnesota or wherever, where your local store has Jurchen, Cody, and Ryan, like then you probably can't win playing that deck. But
does Greg live up there too?
Greg lives in Kansas City, I think. Oh. Maybe I shouldn't be doxing him on stream, but
well,
no wait,
it's funny.
Is it the other way around?
No, because Ryan lives in Minnesota, but his name is Casey Kidd, which is what I find fascinating. Is the Casey Kidd is not from Kansas City, but his brother might be. That's pretty awesome. Justin is grandfather adding the Stitcher is still amazing. Yeah, I agree.
They can correct me, but I believe their family is from Kansas City area, and then Ryan moved away. Is what happened. So he was a Casey Kidd.
So he's a quitter, is what we're saying.
Now he's a liar. I don't know.
Ryan's a quitter now. He's quit Casey. I mean, I think like at the end of the day, what is interesting to me about this tournament was that going into the final round, which this is only a 3-round tournament, so keep in mind that's a pretty small sample of games. The green purple decks were not undefeated going in, right? It was these two decks,
Right.
and do you think there's any information that can be gleaned from that that's more of a problem because of constructed, whereas like sealed is sort of the great equalizer on things like life gain and some of that?
It is. Well, so small sample size is the first thing.
Absolutely.
Right?
I said that. Yep,
we had eight pools. So what I would think is that, like we just said, that constructed and sealed are different in that in constructed, you're always on the look for this holy grail, right?
Mm-hmm.
You evaluate decks differently. Well, not completely differently. You're still looking at like, okay, here's some good cards, the rest of my deck is okay kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
But in constructed, you cherry pick them, right? So like using the triple shambler deck as an example, we know that the green purple life gain synergy is a very powerful synergy package in set one.
Right.
And so in constructed, when you're looking for that holy grail, like maybe there's a quad stitcher out there somewhere, quad shambler out there somewhere we don't know about, but having the triple shambler, like shambler being the best way to trigger the kindred creatures and the life gain when you gain life type synergies, and the having the redundancy of it is very important. But it's all about like how much time and money are you willing to invest in finding that part, because in constructed, essentially the sky is the limit. Like I bet if you called up Stoneblade and you said, I would like to buy 800,000 of the remaining decks, that they would say, okay, here you go. Right. That's infinite dollars in there somewhere. Like maybe you find the quad shambler or whatever, or you find like these bonkers parts, and you get this ridiculous like collection level. Sealed is, Managu says the evaluation is similar, and I agree, but you just have to be okay with what you got, right?
Yeah.
And constructed is almost the same, where you have to be okay with what you got, but the decision to be okay with it is just like, well, I have a little bit more leeway with the investment I can make. In sealed, you just, I'm sure that there are good green purple decks in sealed. I'm sure that there are good blue red spells decks in sealed or whatever, like all the normal stuff that you see in constructed, but you're just much less likely to find them, because even in our pile, we found one of the holy grail purple halves, but it didn't have anything to pair with it, so it didn't matter.
Sure.
It's a weird. This game is very strange the way that it is distribution model works.
Yeah, I mean it's I agree. There's definitely deck evaluation is very tricky in this game because you don't know whether it's good enough or bad enough or something else.
Yeah, like I mean, when you look at something, like say we look at the triple shambler deck, right? We know that that's going to be something he's probably going to play in constructed or trade to someone who's going to play in constructed, right?
Right.
So if you look at that deck, you say, okay, how could I make this better? And there's little tweaks, and you say, how can I make it better reasonably? Like the answer is probably you can't.
Sure.
Because when you start asking for the fourth thing, like if our search begins with shambler, and then we start asking for the fourth thing, then it gets really deep in the weeds. Like you're like, okay, well, if I open another 17 cases, maybe I'll get there,
Sure.
So, but the sky's the limit. Like maybe there's somebody out there, like maybe Elon Musk plays Solforge, and he's just out there cracking packs every day, all day.
I kind of now hope that Elon is playing Solforge. Not gonna lie.
Mendagu says replace the Shambler with Darkheart. Well, but see, then you're almost asking for like more things. because the dark art's only good if the spells are good or numerous.
Well, that's true, right?
I don't know what I don't have the triple Shambler deck open, so I can't say like, yeah, dark art would be good in it. If you have 3 spells, dark art is fine. But like replacing a Shambler with a dark art being better, well, I don't think that's like, I don't think that's always the case. I mean, especially if you're just like 2 spell purple deck or whatever, 1 spell purple deck, then the dark art's definitely not better than another Shambler. But again, I have had essentially no luck looking for a deck where I'm asking for 3 things, let alone asking for 4 things. I don't know if anybody in chat like looks at it the same way that I do, but I think that and that includes a specific ability on the Forgeborn.
Mm-hmm.
I would count as like the same as a card slot, but and Benugu says he doesn't think the triple Shambler deck is great. Maybe it's not. I don't even remember what the other cards were, but it's just a good example of like a very high RNG roll in one specific synergy.
Right. Okay, so we have a special guest joining us here.
Right.
Anque is going to be joining us. We're going to be talking about his upcoming Kickstarter with him, and we're just going to Madungu's adding some conversation here to this. I found a possible. That's what I'm looking for, which is basically 0 to 1 bad cards. So I just do the collection manager sales.
Right. I haven't bought a pack since like set 2 release. I've just been buying collection manager sales as well.
I'm gonna send him an invite to the Zoom call here. He'll probably break our stuff, but that's okay. I had some real interesting issues with the Charge Play guys last week on this, so we'll see how this goes.
Yeah. I agree with you as well, Bendangu. My when I first started playing, I thought that I was always on the look for just like specific like peak cards, but now I think it's almost more important to look for like no bad cards, which again is just another like if you're asking for 0 to 1 bad cards, then you're asking for 9 cards that are from half the pool.
Yeah, I think that's a real thing, right? Like it's a real output, an outcome. Is that you have to kind of find that where the delta difference between like a high roll, like 3 or 4 high synergy cards to a low roll, where maybe the low roll is like you said, 8 really good cards in the deck, but none of them are all that fantastic on their own. It's possible that those 8 cards are better. Still, that 8 card deck is going to be more consistent at a high level, potentially, right? And that consistency means that the ceiling may be lower, but the floor is higher. So you want to try.
I don't know what you did, but my face looks out weird in the thing.
Yes, I know. I'm trying to fix it, but I'm also I'm also talking while we're doing this. So you just
have to live with me. Nobody cares about that.
Gonna have to live with me for a second.
Get to work.
Neil is. See what I have to deal with, chat. This is the kind of work-life balance I have to have with him. It's the worst.
It's just none.
It's none.
No balance.
See, I don't have any way to bring Anque on screen because I don't have a. Maybe I have a guest box. Do I have a guest box? Oh, but it's got the wrong guy's name on it. Woo! We're killing it here. Anque could be Brian tonight.
Oh boy.
Sure, why not?
Sure, why not? I'm gonna do it. That's all. That's what I'm gonna say here. Where'd that go? Okay, 4 yes. And then and so joining us right now live on stream is uh, Ben Anque, aka Anque. You all know him, you all love him. He's getting ready to make a Kickstarter happen soon, right? Can you talk a little bit about that while we're
Hey,
getting things set up?
hey, yeah, sure.
All right.
I don't know if I'm hear my. I assume you guys can all hear me.
Yeah, we got you.
All right. Yeah, so I am launching the Nexus Tracker on Kickstarter in just a few weeks now. I just put up a video. If people had a chance to check that out, I posted all over the Discord, so I'm pretty sure anybody in this chat at the moment has probably had the opportunity to watch it if they so desired. And tonight, I just wanted to share a little bit about it and give Jesse and Neil the opportunity to show off the rest of the minion art that will be part of the rewards for the Kickstarter.
Super awesome, man. I've been like looking at it, and I'm not sure which ones I'm supposed to show first, so you can kind of guide me along here.
Oh, I'm George now. Awesome.
Yeah. That's what I remember. That's why I said you're going to be Brian.
Yeah.
I don't have any way to fix that on the fly right now. That takes more time than I have currently in,
Sure.
in the show.
Yeah. Well, why don't, let me close the YouTube because it's going to distract me. So yeah. So for those that may not know, the Nexus Tracker is a companion device for Solforge Fusion. It's an electronic device that goes at the top of your playmat. It basically takes the place of dice. So you can keep track of the health and attack values of your creatures. And it also includes a life counter. So you don't have to worry about dice. You don't have to worry about knocking them over, finding the right face. You just press a couple buttons and you're ready to go. So it takes out a lot of that fiddliness, and that's the goal of it. I've been working on it for about a year. I think the Kickstarter is going to launch about the 1 year anniversary of when I started working on it with my brother-in-law, who's an electrical engineer. So I did a lot of design work for the physical body of it, the layout, the user research and design aspect of it. He helped with all the circuitry, making it a putting on a rechargeable battery. We went through several iterations of the process. And it is basically about 95% finished. The Kickstarter would be to fund the final production run and just the last bit of design for manufacturing to work out a couple little imperfections, but not enough that would merit delaying it or having to go through a whole other round of prototyping. So that's kind of where the project stands right now.
What's once your Kickstarter goes live, assuming you get your funding goal, which we should talk about that too. But
yeah,
what's your anticipated timeline for delivery to backers? Like, how quickly is that turning back around?
Yeah, so the timeline is that it'll launch July 11th. We'll have a 30-day Kickstarter. Okay. Once the Kickstarter is closed, we'll have the standard like 2 weeks for doing all the backer kit kind of stuff.
Right.
Getting all that information. During that time, I will be working on making the design corrections and figuring all that out. That should be about a month worth of final design work and getting all the manufacturer, like the pre-purchasing for manufacturing. And then we're probably looking about 3 to 4 months after that to get everything assembled and sent to backers. So I would think early January, we should have everything ready to go in the mail.
Yep.
Obviously barring unforeseen circumstances, and another pandemic happens and shipping all shuts down and who knows what happened. I mean, there's some things you just can't predict.
That's right.
But a lot of all the research is pretty much complete on what needs to happen, what parts we need, which manufacturers we're going to work with. It's just a matter of getting all the final specs in and getting the final amounts and all the little details there.
Do you know what your pledge amounts are going to be? Have you solidified that yet, or is it still in the works?
There's two that I can advertise right now. One is going to be so obviously, like with Kickstarter, you can pledge however much you want. If you pledge $20 or more, you will be getting a set of the minion tokens as well as a custom forge token,
Sweet.
just as a thank you. And the trackers themselves, the to get one tracker, the minimum pledge level is going to be 150.
Okay.
And that there'll be a handful of early bird slots where there'll be no additional shipping. And the anticipated shipping is about $15 for 1 to 2 trackers.
Okay.
So I'm going to try and work in a little bit of a discount if you order 2, because I know some people would like to have a play set.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not spending, $300, you'll spend a little bit less than that. And that's kind of what we're looking at right now.
Okay.
I'm also anticipating having a playmat that's available that will use the art from the minion tokens as well.
Okay.
And the layout's going to be a little bit different in that the mat will have a little bit more space at the top to allow you to have that the tracker overlay the mat a little bit.
Okay.
Whereas with the standard mats that are out right now, there's not much room at the top of the mat. So this new mat should have a little bit more flexibility at the top, so you can put the tracker over top of it, since it does add to the depth.
It sounds pretty well thought out. Like, you've done a ton of development on it. Obviously, you've had Justice running around at some tournaments testing with it, and
yeah, big thanks to Eric for taking that around, getting feedback on it, letting others try it out, just to sort of get an understanding of how it works. And
yeah, I got a chance to see it in person at Fuse Fest. Didn't get to play a game with it, but it was very.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to talk to you. I missed you.
No, that's totally fine. It was a busy weekend for everybody, and honestly, I was a little new to the community, so I didn't know who everybody was and what they were doing, and obviously.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just like running around with the new set and just. Yeah, so much. So it was a great experience. It was very overwhelming.
For sure. So Neil, you got a chance to play with this at Indy. Do you want to give some?
I did. Yep. I played a game against Eric, who was there with a pair of them. He also recorded all of those games, and I assume the same for the other tournaments he's taken too. So if you go to his YouTube, I'm sure there will be some practical demonstration of it you can watch on his coverage stuff. But it worked really slick. I mean. I didn't in our game that I played, there was nothing that it did that I thought was weird or anything. Like, it was all very intuitive and easy to use, and I mean, it's definitely a big upgrade over having like 30 10-sided dice on your table.
For sure.
This game is incredibly fiddly.
Yeah.
So making that easier, I think, is a big selling point for it.
Right. No, I agree. I think that, one of the real problems with dice in my experience has been if table gets bumped, dice get moved, any of those things, it can be really hard to maybe remember all of the stats and data to restore your game state. Whereas something like this system will pretty much guarantee you, short of an EMP blast wiping it out, that your game state is in a good state, right? It's in a good solid place. So and it feels very similar to what we're used to playing Solforge on TTS, right? It has a very similar sort of feel and tactical component to it. So I'm really excited for you, Ben, to get this Kickstarter out and going. I know it's been a project for you to get here, and you've been working on it really hard. You've got some stuff for us to share with our audience tonight. I know that one of these was already shared on Crit Camp. Is that right?
Yes. So if you want to pull it up again, the Four Seasons one, that's what I shared on Crit Camp earlier.
I've got it on screen now for everybody. So yeah, this is pretty cool. It's the Four Seasons. Ryan's asking a question in chat: is there a warranty or service period? That's a great question, Ryan. I'll let Ben answer that. I have no idea.
I am happy to service it. I haven't really overthought that too much, but I would say at least for the electronics, it'll be at least a year. I can't really give a warranty on you dropping it or throwing it across a room. So if you shatter if you break the enclosure, there'll probably be a cost for repair on that. But anything else, if anything falls apart, I mean, we're not expecting that to be an issue since we've gone through a couple iterations and know kind of where the weaknesses are. yeah, the electronics, it's very simple. If anything starts to fail, if you have any weird glitches that come up, we will absolutely be happy to fix that.
Awesome.
And there's also since it will have a USB-C connection, there's also the possibility to do like a remote fix or update to the firmware.
Cool. All right, so let's talk about, you got the 4 seasons here: winter, spring, summer, and autumn. What is the significance of that for you?
So right, so just to give a little background, the art that I generated for there's for the four factions. So I was trying to think of like what can I do that's a little bit different. And I'm a big fan of the Art Nouveau movement, especially the artist Alphonse Mucha, and he has some pretty influential pieces based around the 4 seasons. So these are inspired by one of those collections.
Nice.
So you have the 4 different seasons. They're basically these quadrics of women in these various poses, but with like they're more flowery and have a little bit more of the seasonal motifs to them. These are sort of like reimaginings of those.
Okay.
So if you're ever to look at the original art, you'd sort of see the connection there.
Really simple for me. I think winter and summer are obviously direct reflections of Necrame and Tempes. The spring and autumn, I was trying to figure out which one was Utera and which one was Aloyan, and obviously the backgrounds help allude to that, with autumn being Aloyan and Utera being spring. But I was like sitting there and I'm like, oh man, there's shades of the blue obviously coming out on the spring side, so it's like maybe there was some connection to the Aloyan there. But I think it's really cool. I think the art style is really unique and offers a completely different stylistic choice to how your game could look on the table, which is, I think personalization is awesome. So
yeah, I wanted to give people a chance to express it a little bit differently. And I enjoy the art style. I wanted to have something that's a little bit different from the standard card frames, and we'll show those off in just a few minutes. But yeah, if you wanted to show the Moon and Stars series, that also has.
So here's a second series that you put out called
the
Moon and Star. Yeah, the debut of this. This is the first time that we've ever seen these. Can you explain what the purpose behind this was? Was this also inspired by a similar artist?
Yeah, same artist. Okay. It's a different series by that artist. Like it's called the Moon and Stars. So it has the moon, the pole star, the morning star, and the evening star. So again, it's another one of his more famous works, especially towards his later in his career. And each one was like a different star in the moon. So again, it's one of those things where if you look at the original artwork, you'll see where it's inspired by. But again, it's giving that sort of fantasy tinge to it.
Yeah, it's super cool. There's lots of little details when you go and look at these. That maybe hard to see on screen or maybe not, but as I've got a little bit bigger screen, and there's just little nice touches throughout these pieces that I really like the dual colored eyes on both the morning star and the moon. So super cool looking, and definitely thematically I think it ties nicely with Solforge. So it's cool to see a different take like this. I'd love to see Solforge take a direction like this for a set or something. It'd be really neat to just have one set that sort of has this Art Nouveau style on it. So super cool, super cool. So do you want to do card frames level 1, card frames level 2? What do you want to start?
We can do level 1, level 2.
All right. Yeah. So this will be the first time anybody's seen these pieces of art in a official card frame, and what it'll look like on your table. And I think they look. I love these frame designs. Very high fantasy frame design here.
And they're meant to evoke the sort of posters of the Art Nouveau movement. So they have that sort of the geometric shapes to it, and the font. And again, it's a fairly reminiscent of the Art Nouveau movement as well.
Absolutely. I think these look great, and obviously, I just love this idea that these things are somehow embodied in a human form instead of a more fantasy shape like a wisp or a spell sprite, right? Being more of like almost like a fairy type approach to it, where they're humanized in some way. So
yeah,
super cool. I when I first looked at these today, I'm like, man, those are kind of neat. kind of want a set of these for the table. This just because they're so different, right? And they're definitely
There's definitely one way you can get them.
That's right. That's right. I definitely know how I can get them.
Yeah,
that's for sure. So let's go talk about level 2 then. So this is where you get into the upgraded versions, obviously Spellstorm, Oak Father, Zombie Brute, and Mega Gizmo, but obviously using the Moon and Stars motif here instead of the Four Seasons motif that you had shown before. So yeah, I mean, dude, this is a super cool project. I know it's a ton of work to probably get to this point, and you know, I want to be able to help give you as much exposure as we can on the show because I want to see your Kickstarter succeed. What is your funding goal? How many do you need to sell in order to make this happen? And
yeah, so it's not just about how many I need to sell, it's about how many I need to make.
Sure.
So what I'm looking at in terms of the funding goal is about 9,000.
Wow. Okay.
Because I have to make a certain quantity in order to get the price down.
Sure.
You know, that's sort of like my break-even point.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm hoping to have more where I can actually sell those after the Kickstarter as well.
Absolutely.
But that will be at a higher price point than the Kickstarter itself.
So Kickstarter will be the most affordable way to get access to this Nexus tracker. Do you have a link to the Kickstarter I can throw in the chat?
Yeah, let me pop that in there for you. Let me pull it up real quick.
That way anybody that's following along can go out and visit the Kickstarter page and follow the Kickstarter page and be reminded when it goes live if they're interested.
I'll put it through Discord for you.
That'll work. Let me share that in chat, and then we'll pull up the page really fast just so everybody can see what the final product looks like here, or the work in progress version of it.
Mm-hmm. And it's very similar to what it'll look like in the final rendition.
I'll have to do that because I'm not logged into Kickstarter right now. All right. Won't let me go any further than that just because of where we're at, but that makes sense. So yeah, so you can kind of see this Nexus Kickstarter, and it's one half of these is 150. The other half is the second player one. So that would be
it's a pair.
The pair for okay.
Yeah. And the LED, like the panel will be a little bit crisper. It looks a little blurry in the image, but that'll be fixed, and it'll be a little bit darker, not that sort of yellowish color around the displays. It'll be much cleaner looking in the final product.
Neil, you got anything to add before we wrap up with Ben here on this?
Well, I was going to let him finish talking about his product, but
I mean, I'm happy. I'm also here to answer any questions.
Well, so I don't know if you're into Magic cards at all.
Oh yes, I'm very much into Magic.
Are you familiar with Klug Alters? He's an artist that does like Magic card alters.
I am not familiar with him.
So he does everything, but he also does a series in Art Nouveau of alters, and you should just like it's KLUG alters, so you should check that out sometime if you're into that art style because they're all really sweet. And he's an incredible artist, but he does like lots of different styles. That's just one that he's done a big series of on that you probably really enjoy if you like those.
Yeah, for sure. I'll check that out.
It was a little off topic, but your tokens like really evoke that for me because I'm not an art enthusiast, and so when I saw them, that's what I thought of, not like what they're actually from. But
that's fair. Well, it'll mean something different to each person if you look at it.
That's right. That's right.
I'm just hoping that people enjoy them, and have something a little bit different.
They're sweet, yeah. They're really sweet.
Yeah, we'll have to maybe I'll see if I can sneak in a couple of extra sets at whatever I can pay for them, and then give them away on stream or give them away in a tournament or something. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, we can certainly talk about that. Like, well, if assuming it's the campaign successful, I will be printing a certain number of them.
Yeah,
I'm sure I'll be able to have some leftovers to.
Yeah. And I can buy them as a donor to the Kickstarter too. That's no problem.
That also works too. I think one of the stretch goals will be that they will be in foil versus just plain.
That's
I've
sweet.
actually got testing of them, so I've done a test with the foil. The foil looks really nice. It's just significantly more expensive, so we'll have to make that a stretch goal.
Yeah, we did that for one of our games years ago where we foiled cards for the World World Championship event.
Yeah.
It was a pretty big draw, but they are a lot more expensive for sure.
But they are very nice.
Yep, absolutely. So, well, Ben, anything else you want to add to this before we wrap up this convo?
No, I'm just gonna say that if you want to follow me at Anque Gaming on YouTube as well as on Twitter, I'm gonna keep posting as time goes on more information. I'll do some more videos and just sort of talk about the Kickstarter as we get closer and closer to launch. So
yeah, I'll add your links into the description in the video post production. So after we get off and YouTube does its thing, I'll throw all these links in the description for people to follow along later on. So while your name on the stream looks wrong, I apologize for that.
That's totally fine.
Anque has been a huge supporter of the Shuffle Bus, and we just want to thank you so much for that. And we look forward to seeing you in a bunch of
and just like a prominent member of the community as a whole. So you should definitely follow him on his on his content as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Great content. So.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us. We anything we can do to help you with this when it gets closer to launch or when it's live, shoot me over a few things we'll mention on the show during your Kickstarter to help raise some awareness for it for anybody that catches it and maybe finds it on demand afterwards or whatever it may be. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do that.
All right, Ben. Thanks so much, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
All right. Now I gotta fix Neil again. Oh no, I fixed it.
Ben is just an all-around like really nice guy.
I love Ben, man.
I've only interacted with him on a small number of occasions, but it's always very pleasant. And he's
is
also a very good Solforge player. So.
Very good Solforge player. You know who he reminds me of is Carl from Ashes. Extremely good. Yeah, extremely good at the game, but yet super friendly and super helpful. And
yeah,
he reminds me a lot of Carl. So I miss Carl. maybe
yeah, me too.
Maybe if I invoke his name.
A lot of those guys.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Like literally during the stream here, I got a Facebook notification from Plaid Hat Games because that still shows up on my feed sometimes, and apparently they're it was the third preview for their second set of Red Rain, so they must be doing okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's obviously it's still alive and it's still doing what it wants to do. And
I assume Carl is still there.
I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody really from that realm for quite a while.
Except for Charlotte.
Showing up on Saturday, which was awesome. So. But yeah, I mean, I think that's going to pretty much wrap us up for tonight. We covered everything we needed to cover, and I think we'll be looking to talk about our announcement. We should have the announcement for the next tournament by the stream next week. So within the next week, you should be seeing the sign-up sheet come up for that. Will be a little bit of change in the pricing structure as we figured out. Like we ran the tournament before, and so. You get a better idea of what costs are on these things. And we're not trying to make any money on our tournaments, but we're definitely trying to make sure that we at least break even on them. And so probably will be like one booster kit giveaway per 7 players instead of the 5 we had this last time around. Shipping's a little more expensive than what I anticipated, and we just kind of need to make sure we have all of our bases covered for that. So that's kind of where we're at. And it'll still be set 1 giveaway stuff because that's what I have in abundance. Once I have eliminated that stock, we'll update that stock with either set 2 or set 3 and go from there. So maybe somewhere along the lines we'll get some OP stuff from Alex, and that would be great too because I'd love to incorporate in some actual like official organized play stuff from Stoneblade and do actual results-based pricing structure for that as well. So we'll work through that as we go. But Neil, do you got anything to add before we wrap up stream tonight?
No, I don't think so.
I don't either.
Like we said at the top of the show, it's kind of not a lot changing right now until after Gen Con or when we start getting set 3 previews.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that we'll start to see some sort of information on set 3 in the next few weeks. I feel like if it was gonna
like have some kind of preview release at Gen Con, we would have seen a couple of spoilers by now.
Yeah, they might be waiting until after Origins.
But maybe they're just like keeping it real close to the vest for a big release, like a big kind of reveal thing at Gen Con. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, for whatever reason, my brain doesn't really remember Stoneblade doing much for Set 2 from a spoiler perspective. Do you remember much from Set 2 spoiler?
What I remember from Set 2 spoiler season was just getting the spreadsheet. And I don't remember who put that together.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
Somebody, I'm sorry to whoever did it because you did some God's work there. But after Fuse Fest, we had essentially the entire set in an Excel sheet.
Right. I remember that.
And that was like how the spoilers were. So maybe that's what it'll be like again. Maybe they won't do any
official spoilers,
like kind of media hype spoilers.
Yeah. I hope they consider it. It'd be nice to see this game get some more media attention. And
yeah, the marketing has. I mean, the marketing has been kind of wishy-washy overall since the game's inception, and I think it's doing it kind of almost a disservice because, you know, obviously it's a good enough game and it's popular enough that without what I would consider to be great marketing, it's doing pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows what would look like if
more people are.
They did put a big giant marketing behind it, but
yep.
I could be wrong. I don't know what their budgets look like or anything like that. So maybe they're doing good for what they, you know, what their goals set were.
Right. Okay, well, this has been another episode of the Shuffle Bus. Thank you to all of our chatters who were with us tonight. We appreciate you all. It has been a pleasure to talk with you about Solforge, and we'll be back next Wednesday for more Solforge conversation. And until then, I hope you all get out and enjoy the summer weekend, or if you're off to Origins, good luck in Origins tournaments. And we'll see you all next Wednesday. Thank you so much.